Hi, all, and welcome back to the Sovereignty series. I am here today with Amanda Vollmer, and this is a long overdue discussion. I have been thinking about bringing her on for some time now, and there were so many different topics that I could ask her about, many in the realm of health and medicine, alternative history, of course, around germ theory, and what I have chosen to spotlight today is the topic of cosmology, and it's really so that we can enjoy Amanda's mind for this hour and really be taken on a tour of what the landscape of awakening can look like in this very controversial realm that has all of the characteristics and features that the other advocacies that I have publicly represented share. So I think where we're going to dive in is the sort of seminal moments in Amanda's life that began to awaken her to this question, is reality, is the nature of this place that we live what we have been told? And, I'll end this introduction just by saying that Amanda is absolutely one of the very few, like one hand of people that afford me this feeling of being able to relax because I know that she has the intellectual wheel, and as I work with the part of me that needs to be the expert and allow that part to relax a bit, it's people like Amanda that have really created this lovely soft fabric for me to, lay back into, because I just so value how it is that she thinks and the depth to which she explores, right? So, and we'll probably talk about this at some point today, but she introduced me to this concept of the double cross, right? I think about it all the time, right? So people ask this, they question reality, but then there's another question to ask, and there's probably even another one beneath that. And the folks who can, dig that deep begin to create a very beautiful reality. That's what I have found, is that when we ask deep enough questions, we come to some place that feels really good. And if you just start to scratch the surface and you ask the preliminary questions and you come up with the first conspiracy theory layer, you kind of get arrested in the same fear state that you might have been in had you, swallowed the hook from the beginning. So she's really one of the, in my opinion, great thought leaders in this realm. So with that, welcome, Amanda. I'm excited to be here with you.
Thank you, Kelly. Definitely long overdue. And I'm really happy we can sit down and open up this Pandora's box of, information and really challenge, because this realm to me is a place of challenge and growth and lessons and some sort of individuation experience that, tests us at every corner. And, this topic is really a hot button for a lot of people. But when we have controversy, then we have opportunity as well, because we can now present other materials like, oh, do you understand what logical fallacies are, for example, or in what's happening to your emotions when you're confronted with something that challenges your current belief system? How do you handle that? And how do you look to the information in an unbiased way so that you can formulate new opinions or new ideas? And it's contentious, and there'll be people, I'm sure, in comments and things that will say, maybe not very nice things of our conversation, and that's okay. I mean, if we didn't do anything, then where would we be if we let that stop us? Because sometimes when we're in the public eye, it can be very harsh, the judgments and the condemnation. But that's really the same syndrome I'm seeing when people are so resistant to looking at new information or having other ideas about, what could be going on in this reality. And we're really just trying to get to the truth here. That's really the goal. That's my goal. I just want to understand and know. And I don't like to be lied to. I don't like to be tricked. And my whole journey has been about finding that out. I want to know at least as much as I can know in this place. And that's what this cosmology discussion is about. And I don't like certain terms that have gotten out there, like flat earth, even like that term flat earth has become almost weaponized. And I'm steering far away from it. I like true earth or corrected cosmology or real earth, these sorts of terms, because we've been shrouded in all these lies, layers and layers of lies, and we're peeling them back and peeling them back. And we don't need to really be fixed on a label or on a naming system just yet. We're still uncovering layers here, so we don't need to get so stuck on semantics. We're really looking at evidence, and we are looking at logic, and we are also trying to understand the human mind, and when it comes to cult programming, brainwashing, how the masses think and work, and what's really been going on for a long time in correcting our history. And it's very important. People will say, oh, why do you bother with this, Amanda? You should stick to your lane. You probably get that a lot too.
Yes.
Like, why are you dancing, Kelly? You should stick to your lane, Kelly, like this sort of thing. And it's because they're confronted with something uncomfortable in themselves, right? And they're just projecting it outward. And it's no different with any of these things. It's all their own internal workings. And when we're finding our own strength, which is, I think, the point of a lot of this, we need to take responsibility for what we're feeling and be adults, right? Because children will do that. They'll blast out. And we're supposed to teach children how to formulate their own thoughts, be a critical thinker, question authority, question what you think you know, question what you were told by your teachers, these sorts of things. I teach my child that. I'm sure you teach your babes that too. This is how we learn, and this is how we're going to be better when we are adults and take self-responsibility for our emotions and our feelings and our beliefs and all those things. So I'm very tender with this topic because I personally don't need any more backlash. It's not like I'm inviting it. I'm just stating that I've gone through this process. It's been many years now for me. 2016, 17 is when I woke up to a lot of lies, like there aren't any viruses. That's one of the biggest ones for me. And then after that is when the true earth cosmology hit me. And I realized, no, this really, okay. And I went through a lot of the cognitive dissonance I'm not immune to it. I mean, there are people who are like, oh yeah, they'll click with it. But that wasn't me. I was severely indoctrinated too. I'm a scientist trained, okay? You have to understand, when you think that you know that this is true, you don't let in the other thoughts. You don't let in the other information. And when then a good friend says to me, oh, you're wrong, but all the things you thought you knew for, 30, 40 years, oh, well, there's something wrong with you because that can't be right, because I can't be wrong. And it just comes down to that attachment to the belief that the ego adheres to, and you don't want to change it because it does feel uncomfortable, or feels like almost like a death to the self, or a betrayal of the self. Like, I liked Star Trek. I watched all the Star Trek. I have memories and emotions of watching Star Trek with my father that I cherish. How dare you, make me question my own happy memories and taint them or tarnish them with that, all these things. So that's why I do tread delicately with it. I definitely don't shy away from talking about it, but I don't put it in people's face, because there's a timing. There really is a timing. And I learned that the hard way. I'm sure you've had experiences of you're too soon with something really big, right? So, so my presentation is really light, and it's really just me talking through some of my experiences and the things that I know, and I've done the deep work on, that are just absolutely non-fact based. And here are the facts of where we live. And if people can just take a few of those and run with them, or maybe it'll be a niggling in their mind, after, like, yeah, that's sitting with me. I'm going to go do a deep dive on it, because I'll tell you right now, people watching this, they cannot form an opinion yet. So they come in, the best way is to come in blank slate, open-minded, interested or not, doesn't matter. But if you're interested, just try, to just suspend what you think at this point, and come in with an open mind and an open heart, and just allow for the information to be there, and watch triggers. So when triggers come up, go, oh, there it is, catch one. And the more you catch your triggers, then you realize, oh, that's ego trigger, that's cognitive dissonance. Cool. You still feel it, but you don't have to react to it and blast it over people. And because you don't know, you can't form an opinion. So there aren't any really much there's no opinion that you can say, oh, well, that's because, that's crap. Well, we all know the globe model. We all grew up with it. Okay. You don't need to teach us about the ball. In fact, most people don't even know that model, really. If you question them on the details of the model of the Earth being a ball floating in space, moving hundreds of thousands of miles, rapidly and spinning and turning and all this kind of stuff, they don't know those details. They just know the images, and they just know what their, grade school teacher told them. So they don't even know their own model. So you still can't even form an opinion. So that's where I see a lot of error being made with people when they react. They say no, but they don't have evidence. So I'll present some of that information today.
I love it. I love it. You speak my language. Let's do it.
Okay. Let me go to the screen share section. I think it's this one. And then I believe I have to start the slideshow. Is that all right? If it's loaded, it's still loading. Okay. Oh, Zoom quit. Okay. All right. I titled this Corrected Cosmology, and really it's not totally, I mean, there's PhD papers, like this is a massive topic. People have to understand this, okay? You can't expect an hour presentation to really do it true full justice. What I'm trying to do here, and when I was formulating this, I thought, here's some glaring pieces of the puzzle that people need to start asking questions about. That's really all I'm doing here. But I do want to start with kind of my process a little bit. And of course, we know the old burden of proof reversal is done all the time, where they say, oh, well, you say this Earth is flat, or that we don't live on a ball. Where is your proof? But this is a burden of proof reversal, because if you're trying to make a claim, and the claim is actually that there's a round Earth, a ball Earth, that's the proof. The proof needs to be there. That's where we start, not going to truth and saying that needs to be proved. The truth, it just comes to light. It doesn't need the proof so much as these wild claims, because they are extraordinary. The ball Earth theory and the modeling is all extraordinary, and so the proof is also equally extraordinary and out of control, outrageous, and manufactured through maths and through modeling that have not been proven to be true. So when people say prove it to me, that's actually a logical fallacy. It's like, no, please explain your ball model to me, because that was the one manufactured. We already knew historically that the Earth was not moving, and that was stationary, and that things moved around us. And somehow, over the last 200 to 500 years, everything's been warped. And we're trying to return to the knowledge we once had. So I wrote this actually in 2017, and I sent it to my friends and family. I made the classic new, fresh, awakening, excited person's mistake, where you feel like everyone's suddenly in your head. They're going to understand what you just went through for 6 months studying it. You want to proclaim, because it's really a big deal when you go through it, because everything, you have to throw out every theory. You have to reset all these ideas that you thought you knew. Evolution's in trouble. You've got who runs this place? What's NASA? What are they doing with all these billions of dollars? You have to ask some serious questions. And it was easier for me at this point, just really throw out all theories and invite them back in with the corrected cosmology. And it's become such an easy way to navigate this world now, because I immediately know when they say, oh, there's going to be a dangerous meteor and it's going to come and kill you, and we've got to send a rocket out to go and blow it up and save you, and this kind of shit. I know immediately it's bullshit, and I'm going to have a nap. You know what I mean? I'm not worried that something's going to come and blow this place up. And then dinosaurs get thrown out as well. All of that history gets thrown out. And then, so people say, oh, it's not important. There's other things in the world that are more important. And this is just a bargaining. People will bargain. And so people need to watch when they are starting to make bargaining with themselves, like say, and make excuses for why they don't want to go down this road. And so I fought against it. I was there. I was like, nope, my friend has a brain problem. He has a parasite or a worm in his head. I have to save my friend. Okay. My friend is in danger because I'm a loyal Leo and to a fault. So if I have a friend and I think they're in trouble, I'm going for it. Right. So I wrote, I vehemently fought against flat earth. It did not make any sense to me, but I'm open-minded. So I kept diving in again and again. I would come up for air. I would come up to a wall of illogical nonsense and take a hammer and bang it down. I had some good friends who were gentle with me and kept at it with all my confusion and questions, doubts and volleys. And then as if finally the sand mandala picture started to form, I could see where I was stuck and how I really had to suspend so much past scholastic training and conditioning, even for my own self being already a very fringe thinker, awake to so many truths. And yet I still could not grasp it immediately. And usually to new information, I can when it vibrates well with me. So I thought people must be mad. I thought my friends must be under attack in some way, but I am glad it happened in this way, because I now have compassion for those who are conditioned to even deeper than I was, because was hard to break for me. And I can only imagine with all the propaganda, how hard it is to dig out from underneath that. So I'm way more compassionate about it. I don't like when people label globetards or say that kind of thing or make fun of people, because it doesn't really serve, but also it's not their fault. They're deep in the illusion and they don't have a way out. And so they're just stuck. So it doesn't help to chastise them. So it's hard because you think you know. So if you think you know, that's the problem. There's your block. It's not possible to be conscious to the conditioning until the wall has crumbled. And then you can see where you had the blocks, but not before then. So naturally, you're going to fight for what you believe is true. You know, hindsight is 20/20. You're going to go forward and you're going to look back and you go, whoa. Like I look back, even in naturopathic college, I was really new agey in naturopathic college. I was really annoying because I'd just woken up in not too many years earlier. And I was still like, everything is love and everything is God. And oh my God, it's very annoying. And so I look back at me then and I go, oh God. And it's funny because then you go, oh, well, I have to just be loving to all of those parts of myself that went through all of this, and everyone else is going to go through that too. And that's okay, because this is how it happens. This is what happens. And aren't we glad that we can look back and go, oh, and look how far we've come from that moment too. That's a success. And so now I see it. No, I've not gone mad, because the first thing will say, you're crazy. That's the very first defense. There's something wrong with you. You're crazy. You know, that's usually what happens. Or they laugh. That the cackling will come. You know, that's the first response. And that's okay. I did it too. It's totally just go through it, but don't stop. So we're just uncovering the depth of the massive layers of hoaxes and lies that have been pummeling us for centuries. And thank you to my friends who put up with me as I struggled. I'm here now and my whole world is restructuring. So I am building it again now, sand grain by sand grain. I am in deep research to understand all of this. It's brave work, but it's rewarding. So I thank you for receiving this well. Please take time with it. Listen, look, and notice your own walls, and then know you have a loving friend in me who will assist you and not give up on you, as I was not given up on either. And that's what I sent to my friends and family. And a shit ton of links. I mean, a ridiculous amount of links and pictures and stuff, probably overkill. So one of the things that people don't really realize is they trick you with cameras. I mean, they trick you with CGI and with cameras. And a bendy camera needs to be removed from the debate. Like, you can't just say it's a ball because you use a bendy camera. This is a CGI image. This is a fake image. I don't know what happened here with why or how they manufactured this, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. But there is no ISS in space, for one. People think that hunk of junk is floating around up there. Meanwhile, what did I just hear yesterday? It was it was the other day, someone had said a scientist has done a test, a small particle like the end of a rubber eraser. If that were to hit something in space, what kind of damage it would do? And it was this huge metal crater that he had shown what would happen in space, right? But we don't hear these terrible stories in the ISS of, you know, holes and explosions and, you know, how dangerous that would be, how much space junk apparently is supposed to be out there and all this sort of stuff. We don't get any of that. We don't get satellites falling to Earth, pummeling to Earth, crashing into people with where supposedly all of this junk up here. I mean, people have to start thinking. And this is done underwater in CGI. It's very easy to do. We've caught them using green screens many times, caught them using wires so that they look like they flip in space, and all they do is like brush their teeth, pee in a tube. This is their experiments up there. This is what we pay them billions of dollars to do, to play guitar in space. They're clowns, and they're all high-level Masons, all of them. So people are just glamorized. They can't see. They've been lied to so much, they don't know what's up and what's down, literally. And this is a model that they use for a lot of these, rocket shows. And it's easy to fake. I don't think people realize that you can compartmentalize a huge institution. That a lot of the low-level people that work for these space agencies, they think space is real too. They're not in on the scam. When you compartmentalize the information, you only get need-to-know basis data. You don't see the whole enchilada, only by accident. And there are people who do find out and leave disgusted, knowing what this cult is. This is one of the things I'd like to see. Show me upside down people. Show me upside down buildings. Show me upside down boats and planes and things. Because, hey, if we are so high tech, you should be able to zoom out any one of those satellites or whatever you sent something to Mars, you say? Well, then turn the camera damn well around and zoom in and show me some damn people walking upside down. But I don't see any of that. Nobody does that. There's no 24/7 image of the spinning ball. That's like, you should have a channel where like, oh, I just feel like looking at the earth move today. Just type it in, like those fireplace, YouTube channels. Oh, I just feel like watching the earth slowly rotate. Oh, look at that. No, they can't do that. If they did anything like that, it would be all CGI anyway. But up to this date, they don't do these things because the gig is up. I was still working on this slide really, but there is no measured curve. Every experiment trying to measure a curve has failed. Okay, even in engineering, I remember when I was in school, when I was in university, I had to do a lot of math. Oh my gosh. And so in one of I think it was an algebra class, and I caught this weird proof that it added in a curvature calculation for bridge, I think. But then when you looked at the math, it took it out again at the end of the equation. And I thought, well, why would you add it and then take it out? That doesn't make sense. Don't you want the curve to be there for your manufacturing of your buildings or your, I don't get it. Why would you do? And that was a clue. That was a little, my spiritual teacher would say, file that. You'll need that for later, right? So that was one of those things that later on when I was studying, I went back and went, oh yeah. And I went and I found a lot of those books, and it's all added into trick. There's nothing that's used. Airplanes don't use a curvature. They fly straight all the way through. There's just no measurable curve. The stars, they stay the same. I mean, that was one of the things where I was like, yeah, I mean, I like studying astrology. I was always into astrology since a child. And that's pretty stable stuff. We have thousands of years here. Not a single star's changed positions, minus the wandering stars, which we call planets. We're supposedly going really fast through a lot of space in a short amount of time, but not even close. Our stars are not changing. We have ancient star maps that are accurate to this day. And the Astrolab is an ancient navigational tool that you just can't even use if you were traveling and moving and bobbling about. It's impossible. And of course, what do people say? Oh, but gravity. When people are struggling through this, they always throw the gravity thing out. But gravity is a lie. It doesn't actually exist. And that's been well proven. If you've studied, if you've looked and you read and you understand, that's not real. And that was made up and manufactured mainly in order to remove ether from the picture. The Masonic fraud Einstein was part of that. He was part of what, if he even did it at all, because they're all puppet actors. So those are the front faces, but did he really actually do all that? I don't know. I can't go back and prove that. I know they're massive liars, so why would I believe any of it? I still don't trust that he was even smart at this point, you know? So he had to remove ether from the equation in order to get theory of relativity to work, in order to get these gravity calculations corrected. So that's not scientific. It's not scientific to remove things we know exist to fit your theories. That's like shoehorning a big foot into a small shoe. You can't just do that. That's not scientific. It's not science. It's scientism. So they put it in our face. This is when you have eyes to see, they put it in our face. All of these companies that are all linked to the major controlling families that own all the media, that put all of the propaganda out to the people, they put it right there. Look, dome, firmament, dome. I don't know how much more domey you need to be, but they do disclose it because they have to, because there are laws in this place, spiritual laws in this place. And one of them is about your free will, and you have to agree to it, even if it's tricked, even if it's subtle. You have to give your consent, and this is how they get away with it, through their entertainment systems. There has to be a barrier, okay? Scientifically, we know this. I mean, basic physics class in grade school would show you have to have, if you have a positive pressure system next to adjacent to a negative pressure system, so Earth's atmosphere to space, how does that work without a physical barrier? They've tried all sorts of ways to try to explain this, and it's ridiculous. And never has it been shown in actual physics to be so. You must have a boundary in between the two, period. And you can't just even, if you opened a little bit of that, there would be an explosion, okay? It's very simple. These are very simple things to think through and understand. A child can understand. My child understands it. You know, she's not indoctrinated. So guess what? It's very easy for her. I was like, she's like, yeah, duh. You know, but when you've got the propaganda running, you're not like, oh yeah, duh. You're like, no, I want my illusions. I know I can't be. I don't want to do that work, right? But unfortunately, if you do want to know, you're going to have to put in the work and effort. So in physics, when opposite pressure systems converge and homogenize, we call this equilibrium. So in a real, testable, repeatable experiment, it's impossible without a physical barrier to contain or separate opposing pressure system. Think air duster. So really, you can test at home. And that's what I did when I started waking up. I'm like, okay, first I went, I'm going to prove him wrong. This is what a lot of us do. I am going to go through all the globe proofs, and I'm going to show that he is wrong. I'm going to go through every one of their claims, and I'm going to dismiss each claim. And that's what we'll know, because as I'm working through this, I'm like, okay, well, you're right. Okay, you got something here. Okay, I'll park that. I'll come back to that. But then another one, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point too. I don't even know how. Oh, and this started happening where I'm like, damn, I'm getting stuck when I'm trying to prove it. What's happening to me right now? And you really do have to have enough strength of mind to come at it, because it's a strange experience. Everyone will go through it in their different way, but for me, it was like a lifting of some sort of fog out of my mind, and I had to be gentle with myself through it. It took some time for me to let that lift. And then I apologized to my friend. I said, wow, okay, I can't prove this stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a P900 camera. You know, I bought an Nikon camera. I bought a high quality camera. Okay. Zoom camera. I traveled. I went up every high peak I could get. I went to Manitoba, and they have the Needle in the middle of Winnipeg, where it's the highest point, I think, in all of North America. I'm going to see this. I got to see this. I got to understand this myself. I would go on long roads when in the westerly sun and watch the sun not set, but move farther and farther away from me, move away from me. And I'm like, it's not setting. It's not going underneath thing at all. Wait a second. And alongside my drive, I see telephone poles, right? And what happens? They converge at the vanishing point at the end of the road, and I can't see past that point. But what does it look like? It looks like it's going down, but it's not. It's a perception thing. It's the way in which we see. And trained as an artist, because that was really what my initial vocation was going to be, I excuse me, I understood perspective. I understood that, you know, these shapes, the way their eye sees things, it matters to the physics in which we are seeing. And so I knew you can't see forever. People say, oh, why can't I see all the way to Africa then? Well, because that's ridiculous. You do understand that's ridiculous, right? I mean, unless you're Superman or something, I don't think that's quite possible. We do have a limit to our vision, right? I mean, a lot of the reactions that come are really easy to bat away because they're just emotional reactions and they're not very logical. But this was what I did. I basically rose up as high as I could, and I went in airplanes. I did everything. And by the way, they curve a lot of the windows in airplanes. So people, when you believe it's round, you see it round because you're overlaying your belief onto the reality. So that little bit of curve in the window is all it takes for you to go, yeah, it must be round. But they're not really thinking, because if they just looked out the window for a second, first of all, it's flat as shit. But secondly, it's risen. Like if you take a picture from the airplane window, it's come up. The horizon has come up. Okay, I got to tell you, it's actually a bit embarrassing. I didn't understand this proof. I didn't understand like the words that people were telling me. What are you saying? The horizon rises to meet my eyes. What are you freaking talking about? I don't understand. Like it's like my brain was so blocked, because I think it was such an important proof for me to awaken. I blocked it so hard that I didn't even understand the words. And this is someone with degrees and shit, like, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I understand what is being told to me? And it finally just clicked. Actually, it was Eric Dubé's video where he does a test where he has a balloon. You've probably seen it. It's like a air balloon, right? And what it would look like if it was a ball, as you rise, you're leaving the ball behind. So it's going away from you. But if it's not a ball, then as you rise, that it's rising with you, because it just expands. It just keeps expanding. So the horizon rises to meet your eyes. Well, finally, when that clicked, I went, okay. Oh, right. It does. I've tested it. I climb and it's coming with me. Every time I take a photo, it's right there in my center field of view. That means that is 100% proof that we're not a ball. Whatever anybody says, that is 100% proof that we are not a ball, because you can't fake that. You can't CGI that shit. All you need to do is go up into, the restaurants, the rotating restaurants that are in all the cities and stuff. Go. I took my camera and I filmed, and you could see the limit of your own eye. It was like a disc. It was as if I could see all the way around as far as my eye would go, which is a limit that is in the shape of a disc. And it was amazing. I was emotional. I said, what is this place? And so what ends up happening is you throw away the lies, excuse me, but you don't know the truth yet. You can't. So a lot of people who really get triggered by this information, they'll say, well, what about this? Or how did this work then? It's like, that is not fair to do to somebody who's woken up to lies, okay? Because now you're putting the burden of proof on them again. It's just a logical fallacy. You can't do that. We just know that it's not this. We don't know what it is, but we know it's definitely not that. So, and there's so many amazing True Earth researchers now that are doing so much amazing work and gathering data and doing actual science. And we're getting there. We're getting to that sea change where people are going to have enough data to actually go and put this together a little bit better. So anyone can do this test, just this simple test. It will always rise to your eyes. And this is what I was saying about gravity. So when they remove the ether, now you have gravity. So now you have all these complicated mathematical constructs and things that the normal everyday person could not really conceive of, which is one of their major tricks, right? Things are billions and gazillions, of light years away, and like these astronomical numbers that you can't even get your head around. It doesn't even make any sense, right? It's for fantasy. It's to trap children in the wow factor. So they're addicts of this crap for life. And it's just not so. We don't have these astronomical huge numbers in distance and so forth, and in gravity, and these make-believe ideas. We have birds and bees that can fly, and then we have water sticking to a ball. How is that? They don't work together. They cancel each other out. I don't care what you say about mass. Gravity is bunk, okay? And it's been disproven, and you can find the information. You can research this. When I started, it was harder. It was harder to find it. But there are books there are old texts the ball earth all the way through the 1800s, 1900s that you can read, and they understood this very easily and explained it quite well. So there's lots of resources. So we have obviously density and buoyancy now, okay? Density, something heavy, something weighted will fall and it will go down, and things that are light and airy, like all the helium that NASA buys to send up their satellites on balloons, which is what they do, because there's no satellites in space. That's all fake. That floats, that rises because it's lighter than the ether, not just air, the ether. And if you think of the ether like water, like a fluid medium, you will understand it better. You will piece it together that, okay, just think of this all around us as water, okay? Just not as drowny. It actually doesn't drown you, but it's a lighter fluid. And so that will allow for this idea and understanding of density and buoyancy. So it could be very simply why things float and why things sink are very easy. There is an up and a down, and when you know that, when you know you're not on an angle, like right now from you, Kelly, I should be on some sort of weird angle, right? Like around a sphere. So if you're here and I'm here, we wouldn't be able to see each other, but we're angled from each other right now. That was one of the proofs that was like, wait a second. From where I am in my small town to even downtown Toronto, there still should be some curvature here, that distance. So that means you're telling me that ever so as we go down the street, the building should be ever so slightly angled away and away and away. I went, that's not right. That doesn't happen. We don't have angled buildings leaning. This is crazy. So that was one of the things that also helped me kind of understand that they're not telling the truth. And so common sense tells us we're not hurtling through space at incredible speeds in multiple contradictory directions in a violent, chaotic vacuum, all while butterflies, birds, and bees are immune to such phenomenon. Gravity is nothing more than density and buoyancy, think helium balloons. We have so many proofs, it's redundant, really. None of these devices most of them would never work on a ball anyway. And the fact that they do work proves that we don't live on a spinning ball. The thermometer is testing the temperature of the moon, actually, the sun and the moon, which are small, they rotate around us. And the moon has its own light. I didn't get those slides added in, but there's these, if you take a picture of the moon, a good one, like with my P900, I can take really crisp pictures. And if you adjust the lighting levels, after you've downloaded it, it's very helpful. You get new eyes, because what you start to see as you darken the image is that the light is emitting from the inside out. It's a glow ball. It's literally a glow ball. It's glowing light from inside of it to outside of it. So all of the pieces that you're seeing that are lighter is coming from inside. It's so clear. It helps you to see that it has its own light, and it's actually a cool light. And so people have measured moonlight with a thermometer, and it has come up cooler than with no moon. And we already know that. I say to my daughter, we go outside, and it's like, oh, Anwen, there's the sun. There's the moon. What phase is the moon in right now? Oh, it's quarter, mommy. Isn't that interesting? Why would the sun be full and shining upon this moon in a quarter fashion when we can see both in the sky at the same time? What is the object in between that could possibly be shadowing this moon? And she's like, nothing. This must be its own thing. Well, yes, it's its own thing. So she has the logic and the understanding, because she hasn't been told lies that it's in the earth between the sun and the moon. How can the earth be in the sun and the moon and see both in the sky? I mean, it's that simple, but people can't see because they're blind, right? The plumb bomb, the sextant, the astrolabe, the geodetic, the Pascal vases, gyroscope, sundial, theodolite, compass. I'm not going to go through all these. I'm just saying that we've done laser tests, levels, all of these, planosphere, they're all proving we're not moving and there's no curve. So there are lots of formal experiments that have been done that were excellent. Two that I'll mention are Airy's failure and the Michelson-Morley experiment. Basically, you should be able to detect movement somewhere, okay? We're sophisticated enough in our science to be able to design some experiments to sort of figure out if we're moving relative to star patterns, or in general, we should be able to find some sort of evidence of movement. But these two experiments proved no movement whatsoever. Then George Sagnak's experiment, he forced that notion and then throws out the theory of relativity, but the universities do not have these in their curriculum. Or if they do, they've altered the data. So I remember learning Michelson-Morley, but it was denounced after. So they'll say it and they'll say, but somehow it was disproved, or some other fake scientist or ghostwriter scientist came in and said no. And then that's what you get as your conclusion, and you don't question it further. Some physicists in the field who have worked over 25 years have not even heard about these experiments, and that should speak volumes in and of itself. Why hide the information? Why not talk about it openly? What's so wrong with having an open conversation about these things? Why you got to get your panties in a knot for? Why you got to get so angry, right? That's a clue. If that happens, then we have propaganda and censorship at play here. That means they're hiding something, because if you really wanted to do science and know, then these should be open, debatable questions that aren't, resorting to ad hominem attacks and all kinds of stuff that happens. But that's not taught, and it's not even allowed. Or if you start asking those questions, good luck getting your dissertation done or getting that lab job that you want with that professor, because immediately you are going to be discriminated against and ostracized. And that's how they keep the lie going, guys. Like, this is how in the university setting, it's a cult. You don't question that, because you don't get the benefits that come with, nodding and smiling and doing everything that your professors told you to do. It's not a free thinking world. The universities threw out free thinking long ago. All right. It's a leftist cult agenda now. It's like, oh, fake climate change and save the world from racism and whatever, and like making more problems and being emotional infants. That's universities now. I wouldn't even I said to my daughter, I said, I don't think you're going. I think that era has passed, okay? We will have to make our own universities anew, just like all the systems which are failing us now. But I suggest that you look up these experiments so that you understand them. They're basic papers and very eye-opening. The gyros as well, that's proving that airplanes travel over a plane and not a sphere. So aircrafts use these to determine their heading, right? So what they do is they hold their orientation in space independent of Earth position, or what they call gravity or whatever. If the base of the gyro mount is rotated, the reading should indicate how much rotation has occurred. Now, I have a video that I can share with you guys later that they used a commercial directional gyro used by aircrafts and placed it on a flat table in a location in the northern hemisphere at 53 degrees latitude, and waited for a sufficient period of time to see if the Earth rotation was registered. There was no registering. There was no movement. Okay, again, very simple proof. You should be able to register movement happening. We should, by all intents and purposes, be able to rise up an airplane or a helicopter and just wait for the Earth to move along and go away, and the country you want to go to show up underneath and then land, technically speaking, right? But people will come up with all sorts of, even I remember, what did I think when somebody said that to me? I think it was something like, oh, well, the atmosphere rotates too. So now I had to make something else up do you see? I had to manufacture something to try to make that proof. That's not scientific, Oh, how do we know? Really? Do we know that? How have we been able to show that with science? We haven't. There's no proofs of that. It was just something that, well, then it all moves. The whole air moves too. It does? Okay. So, but air goes but wind, like, okay, no. How? Doesn't make any sense. It falls apart. Okay, so Foucault's pendulum as well. People will bring that one up a lot. So, okay, there's the video I mentioned. So Foucault's pendulum, they say, oh, they've pushed this and now it's showing the movement. So it's stable and then it slowly goes, and it's showing our movement. That's their proof. But in the 1850s, they tried to repeat this experiment That's science, guys. You have to have a repeatable experiment to prove anything. You can't just do a one-off and say that's the case. And all kinds of inconsistencies. You go different ways. You could stop it. It's almost like the same thing as the toilet flushes this way in one hemisphere and that way in the other. No, it doesn't. No, it don't. Nope, it doesn't. It's depending on the manufacturer of the sink or the toilet, that which way the water goes down, guys. It's nothing to do with spinning. But all they have to do is tell you that in school with someone who looks professional, with someone who looks nerdy enough or looks like they're in a position of authority, and people just, oh, okay, that's it. Or Star Trek told me, so that's true. So they made it all up. And this is why when people say, why is it so important that I understand this? It's because of all of this. This is how they've controlled our beliefs, all kinds of beliefs, DNA beliefs, satellites, viruses, the two-party system, evolution, aliens. Where do aliens go from outer space now? Gone. As soon as somebody tells me there's aliens from outer space, I'm out. I don't need to waste my time with that now. I know that's automatically bullshit because that doesn't happen. Nothing can get in or out of this place. Money system, oil is not from fossils of dinosaurs, guys. Okay. It's the blood of the earth, and it is renewable resource, and it is endless because it's literally mama's blood here. So just like universal water or endless water, we have endless water as well. They try to tell you things are limited so they can put fear into you and then control your spending habits and your basic lifestyle. And that's the goal. So it's all lies. And once you realize that, it starts to really open for you. They love to show these really fancy images of Mars and all these planets and tell us all these details about it. Like, wow, did you know there's actually somebody named a moon crater after me, and this kind of shit. Oh, did you know that Mars is this cold or this hot or has this much rock? Or look, actually Marty Leeds was really helpful for me to help understand that above the firmament, okay, and the waters above, it says in the Bible, waters above and waters below, God separated the two with the firmament, and he put the stars in the firmament for time. So this is a sky clock. This is helping us tell time and seasons and planning and knowledge about ourselves. It's all there. But that is the in between the spiritual heavens and us. And the spiritual heavens is non-terra firma. It is not the material world. We're in the material world. That is not the material world. Above us is non-material. It is it's a guess, because we're only going to be able to guess. Okay, but we know again what it's not. It cannot be material matter. Impossible. The things, when we look at all of these planets, they shimmer, they move, they are biophotoluminescent. They are like what it says in the Bible anyway, is that the word of God, the spoken word, so vibration, and was what stimulated the light. So this is how it got started. This is in Genesis. Genesis is all full of flat earth information and truth information. For those who are Christian, or those who, read the Bible or need Bible proofs for themselves, like the religious people, it's all there for them, in 66 plus books of the Bible, as well as the removed books as well. And that's what it looks like, as shimmering light. They are lights. And the wandering stars are considered more influential upon our persona, upon us. They bear influence, and a lot of the cultists actually worship them and do sacrifice to them. So we don't even know what that is. Are they demigods? Are they just what it looks like when we pass on? Is that what we return to? I always had this feeling like we do return to stars, like our canopy above us is like one of us each is a star, and that's what we look like when we go home, sort of thing. This was just an idea I had for many years. And it was mainly after a Joni Mitchell song, like We Are Stardust, right? And I was like, Stardust, how? Like, what do you mean by that? And I was like, oh, maybe we are that. Maybe that's us when we leave the corporeal realm. I don't know. It's just an idea. But what if these are beings and we can't see them with our current perspective, with their current limitations, right? Why did they sacrifice to them? Why did they pray to them? There must be some reason or rationale they're doing that. So, but as I said, this is all guesses, but we know what it's not, and it's not terra firma. You cannot land on it. You can't land on Mars. You can't have a rover on Mars. So is what I was saying about timekeepers. So they are timekeeper planets. I mean, we lost the technology to go to the moon. Don Pettit literally like retarded. He had, like, I'm not making fun of his mental capacity per se. I'm saying that he's not a very smart man. Okay. If you ever heard Don Pettit talk, he's slow. He's a slow guy. And oh, there's a hole. Oh, well, we'll put duct tape over it. Like, that's what he said when somebody said, oh, what happens when you get a hole in outer space? Oh, we just deal with it. Like, what? Don't you think it would be called death if there was a hole in your spaceship? They're liars. And and when you have eyes to see, you see what a joke, how they make fun of us. That's the thing that angered me a lot. I was like, they don't hide it, and they make fun of it. They make fun of us not getting it. They mock us all the way through. They mock us. And when you finally pull the shroud away, you can see how they make fun of us. This is a Photoshop image that they said was from the moon. And if you actually adjusted the levels in Photoshop, you could see that they just did a click of an image over another image. That's it. Very easy to prove that they faked that, all of that moon landing stuff. But now we're on Mars all of a sudden. I mean, they've already proved this is where Arizona or some part of the desert where they actually have the rovers, which is their testing location. Yeah, okay. No, that's their filming location for fooling you. Nobody's on Mars. I get this proof a lot. So Earth is too big to see any curvature. This is the problem, right? So it's too big. How can you see the curvature? This is a common argument. But then they will say, when you say, look, the ships go away from your eye, but then with a zoom lens, you can bring them back, which means they're not going over any curve. Well, they'll say the ships have disappeared over the curve, but that's a very close, that means that ball is not very big, right? If you can actually see a ship disappear. So they get caught, people will get caught in these conundrums of ideas, right? About their claims, and they contradict themselves. And this is a common one that's done. All Masons, all of these people that they put in your face with all the stories, all the backstories of who they are, and all the pictures, which are never real pictures, obviously they're all artistic renderings. Did they really even exist? We have to even ask that, because most of history has been manufactured, at least, there's been at least 100 years it's been manufactured in the literature, like Huck Finn and all those stories. That was all backstoried in as we lost a bunch of historical time. And who are these Masons? Well, they give it away. They show you who they are with their symbols, right? These were all the people who decided the Earth was a ball here, all part of the Masonic Lodge, all part of the big cult. And that's George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. Now, the ancients, they do a lot to denounce our ancestors, to say that they were stupid, to say we came from cavemen, that we were brutal imbeciles, which I think we've been brutal imbeciles now. But before the Great Reset, before the last reset, we were brilliant. It was a brilliant place to live and to be. And the technology was incredible. We had free energy. We had everything. I mean, look at the Tartaria information if you're interested in learning more about that, because that's the sort of the inroad to some of that information. But Egyptian, Norse, Hindu, Mayan, Inca, Navajo, Hebrew, they all have a firmament, a flat plane, an above and below aspect underneath. So maybe that's the hell realms or whatever they're talking about. Or the great deep is what the Hebrew cosmology talks about it. God above, it's always an above and below. There's a lot of talk about large turtles being the base, or larger animals being part of our Earth basin. We have evidence actually of giants back at the beginning, where everything was big, everything was huge. The trees were huge, the plants were huge, the insects were huge, everything was huge. This is how they faked the dinosaur hoax. They took the huge bones and made up something else, made up another fantastical story, took the bones away and hid that history and truth from us. And there was a gentleman that I met, and his YouTube is called Stellium 7. And he was hiking, I believe, and he was like, this is a weird, what am I hiking on? And he looked way back, and it's a giant elephant. It looked like a giant elephant. He's like, this is too anatomically correct to be a coincidence. And so he went in and scientifically studied this mountain and proved without a shadow of a doubt that this was a giant elephant. Eye structure, trunk structure, everything. Impressive, right? So we think we know, we don't know what the heck. This kind of gets weird. And I say to people, come to where you're comfortable. You know, if you don't want to go down that, you don't have to, but you do have to know that the ball earth hoax is important, because it means that you can better understand and navigate this place and stay away from the liars and hoaxers and con men. So there's your NASA picture. Oh, I just noticed someone wrote like twat and knob on it and pong. That's funny, because they have to paint it and draw it, and they'll do like stamps of clouds, so you'll see like the same cloud repeated because they got lazy with the painting of it. And if you compare all the balls together, they all look different all the time. That's ridiculous. So they all had all these cosmological historical knowledge, all had flat earth under a dome, firmament, which there's question that there might be a dome and a firmament, 2 layers. There's some, when I did my Mount Meru summit, which was really awesome, that I talked about water in that summit, but you know, one of the presenters was suggesting that maybe there's actually a couple of different aspects to what's happening up there, which is very fascinating. So see, it gets you into all kinds of other explorations of knowledge. So yeah, Bible, Torah, Quran all contain excerpts that can be interpreted in this way. Sumerian, Babylonian, Vedic, Chinese cosmogony depict similar notions. So why did they have to do this? Do you notice this trend? I don't watch news, I don't watch TV, but for those who do, it's in your face. You put on a movie, immediately ball earth in your face. You put on the news, ball earth in your face. Everything you watch, ball earth in your face, ball earth in your face. And they always open their segments with this imagery. That's called programming, guys. There's no need for it. If everyone knows it's a ball, why you got to keep shoving it in everybody's face? It's because they got to keep getting the next generation. You got to keep putting it as a normalizing thing. This is normal. This is real. All of the TV shows about outer space, and you know, it's the same thing with the whole germ theory, right? They had to make Contagion movies and whatever. And they blend truth and fiction in such a way that your mind and your imagination, you don't really know. You don't know the difference, right? So it's like it bleeds into your subconscious. It bleeds into part of your belief system. It's very dangerous to expose your children, who are very open-minded in the way that they think, to all of these images. And I was very clear at the beginning that my daughter would not experience television. There's a flicker rate, nervous system problem, of course, with it as well, but she doesn't need the programming. I don't need to go, and we don't need to undo it anymore. Right now, we have to undo all this mess inside ourselves. It's big work, but in our children, they don't need to go through that. There's no point. We can tell them the lies of the other side if they're interested, but really we're focusing on not programming them from the get-go. This is fun. I just put this in because it was funny, because this is Copernicus, right? And he was actually, there's stories and rumors that he was actually an imbecile, and he was sort of mental, and he would write crazy stories, and he came up with the ball earth as one of his crazy stories. And the Queen took the story from him, and then they made him into some sort of fluff, front man picture. And it was nothing based on science. It was just, he was like a madman and came up with some idea. And they're like, yes, we're going to work with this. This is good. We can do this. We can lie to everyone. Yes, this is convenient. Just like when they manufactured the germ theory, it was all political. It had nothing to do with health or well-being or any of that. They didn't care about that. They wanted to control people. And how are they going to do it? Well, hey, can you prove that there's an invisible particle coming in and hurting you? No, you can't. You have to rely on experts. Same thing with this. You have to rely on experts who have telescopes or have all kinds of gadgetry that something is true or not. So you have to appeal to authority. They want that, because then you are powerless and you don't know the truth. This is the only black hole NASA's ever found. The money pit here. They are thieves, they're liars, they're con men, they're frauds. That's what they are. There's nothing to respect about it. They are the space propaganda arm, NASA, for the military-industrial complex created mostly to militarize space, scam the American taxpayer out of billions, and wage war on your mind using scientism and pseudoscience. That's NASA, not a space agency. Okay, so this was the big one for me. When I was trying to go and click in my head this stuff, when I was still fighting, and I was still calling my friend that he was mental, this did it for me, because it was more the emergency landing on airplanes that really set it in. but I started studying the different maps. There's all kinds of different maps. There's no one right map. Everyone will say, oh, the azimuths, equidistance map, that's the best one, or this is the best one. I don't think so. I don't think we quite have it. I think the closest we have is the reversed moon map that has been presented to us, that is showing a snapshot of this place on the moon front. So whenever the moon was formed, it was like a snapshot of all the land masses were imprinted upon it. It's like a picture. It's like a silver, like an exposed picture. And I think that's the closest map we have, is actually the moon, the image of the moon. And if you do it reversal, it's really profound. And that means there's a lot more land. Wherever we are, they're hiding a ton of land. That's why we have an Antarctic treaty that prohibits people from going to certain places. We had people historically that went to Antarctica and found warmth and warm hot springs and beauty and growth and life. And that's very hard to find that information now. I know there's a book about an explorer who did that. But these routes for me sealed the deal. These make no sense. On a ball of earth, the way that the planes fly make no sense. Why would you go up here to Europe to go across to North America? If you're like, why would you go like this? Why wouldn't you go straight? Don't you have only a limited amount of fuel? If you want a direct flight, unless you're doing stopovers, I'm not talking about stopovers, I'm talking about direct flights. Why are you going all over the place? Doesn't make any sense. So that I sat with that for a while. And then I did the mapping out on the maps that we know are close enough, or what we've been able to determine are close enough to land masses, because we can measure the land masses. We can drive and measure and drive and measure and drive and measure, right? And yeah, oh, these are the straight routes. Oh, straight route. Okay. Oh, interesting. But when I read the emergency landings, where they would land, it made absolutely no sense. How could there'd be a woman pregnant giving birth. They had to land immediately. They didn't have time to think about their hopes. They just had to land. And why you land? So you're going here. Why you landing up here? Well, that's weird. So for people who are having a hard time, that's a really good place to study, to really just help pull out of it, because that was a big one for me. That helped me a lot. And of course, the Bermuda Triangle mystery has been solved, because they don't go to space. They just send it up and go, whoa, oh my God, everybody. And then where's it go? Well, it goes down to the ocean. And then the other cockpit, which is an airplane, they just fly back after. That's their hopes. Watch any launch. Just watch what they do. Study it, study what shots, the cuts. Very telling. When you have eyes to see, you can see how they just switch to another camera, switch to a different CGI green screen. They never show you a full, I don't want interruptions. Just show me it. Go to space. Show me, but they don't do that. It's always cut. Here are your con men. Now, I don't touch the whole Jewish thing much, but we're all Jewish, all of these people. I think more so the Zionism aspect, the not really Jews. They're not really Jews. They just Jews in hiding. So whoever these people are, they formulated all of their colonization in this way. So these were the movie makers. Here's your MGM, Fox, Paramount, Universal, Warner Brothers. You've got William Fox, Marcus Lowe of MGM, Adolf Zucker of Paramount, Carl Laemmle of Universal, Jack Warner Brothers, and William Fox of Fox, obviously. So these are your madmen. These are the people. Doesn't take a lot. People think, oh, it's so big. How could everyone be in on the hoax? They don't have to be. There's only a handful of megalomaniacs that came up with such an idea that continued to move forward. It was the same thing as the Jekyll Island situation with the Fed, right? The Federal Reserve creation. It's exactly the same thing. They met in secret. They had a plan to take over. And it's not very hard to figure out. And it only is like a handful of men. And then the agents of deception that keep the lie going. Aleister Crowley, occultist and ceremonial magician. Jack Parsons, he was the founder of JPL, a Thelemite occultist. Ron Hubbard, L. Ron Hubbard, American author of science fiction, which is how they injected it into the culture of ideology and belief systems. He founded the Church of Scientology, which is a cult. Walt Disney, American animator, film producer, and pedophile, founder of the Magical Kingdom. Magical. It's magical, guys, right? It's all a magician's show. Arthur C. Clarke was an American science fiction author who invented the idea of a satellite. Satellites weren't like, hey guys, we really need some tech up here. We should figure this out. It's be a really cool idea. We didn't need any of that. We had undersea cables for communication. We didn't need any of this stuff. We have fiber optics. We don't need any of this stuff. We don't even need the wireless stuff at all that we have today, believe it or not. We have the ether. We can use ether to transmit. You don't need wires. But they came up with all this stuff to control, to make money, to keep people asleep, all of these things. These were the inventions. And he came up with the satellite idea. Same thing as with Queen going to Copernicus. To say, oh, hey, you got a good idea, buddy, bruh. We're going to use this. We're going to, yeah, man, this is good stuff. Yeah, we can fool everybody with this because it's so fancy and so techy and so complicated. And you can get all kinds of people involved that don't know what they're doing. They can make a satellite. I'm like, I make satellites. I know they're real. Yeah. Where do they go? Do you go to the launches? Are you part of the, like, do you go and see how they put them up on the balloons? Yeah, you can send signals all you want. But guess what? Those fall down. We have evidence of those. Those do fall down. They eventually fail. That's all. That's the Starlink too, as well. I mean, many people have seen Starlink go up. They're all in balloons in a string. Why didn't they just put them in outer space? Since it's so, so floaty up there. And then Werner von Braun, German-American aerospace engineer and a pioneer of rocket science. He's your rocket scientist, which are not smart. So every time I say, I'm not a rocket science, right? Not a rocket scientist. I'm like, actually, no, I take that back because I'm smart. So this is just the end here. I just said that, if you don't know, it's really, are you able to form an opinion? That's not really. I mean, you can form all kinds of opinions, but they're not going to be accurate. So why do we have this habit of forming opinions about something that we think we know when we don't? So we can't do that. So anyone watching this who hasn't studied any of this, no opinion then. Just what you do is, if you're interested, this is not my goal to teach everything here. It's ridiculous. Here's a nugget, here's a nugget, here's a nugget, here's a clue, here's a clue, here's a clue. Off you go. And all the wonderful researchers and presenters that have come, and even you have interviewed, like David Weiss, right? You can go to them. Then they will give you the details and you can get into the nitty gritty of it. I'm just showing you a little bit big picture here, but your ignorance doesn't make me a conspiracy theorist, okay? And that is a trap that we've gotten into, where we think just because it's challenging us that somehow we have to speak to it. No, resist the forming of an opinion until you've actually been able to qualify the information that you're trying to put into your opinion. I see that as one of the biggest bad habits of people to this day. All kinds of opinionated ideas all over social media that are bearing nothing of value, really, because they haven't done the work. Now, if you have an educated opinion, I'm all ears. So there we go. And thank you for letting me go on with that. And I hope that was helpful.
That was exactly what I asked you to present to us, which is really just an invitation to explore through these many different doorways. I mean, as you were going through it, I was like, there are so many, there are so many important entry points. And if you feel even a little bit intrigued or like a little bit of that, rustling inside, you will be naturally attracted to the best resource for you. That's part of how this discovery journey works, right? Like there's, unfortunately or fortunately, not like a go-to text. And that's because this isn't controlled information, right? We kind of want like, oh, what's the textbook, for me to learn all the things. But I think you pointed out what so many of us are coming to, which is the imperative to resist that logical fallacy, that burden of proof fallacy, right? Like you don't have to know what is. Just enjoy the process. And it becomes fun, right? Like, I know you enjoy it too. Enjoy the process of like, oh my God, that's a lie too, right? Like initially the deception experience, of course, invokes a lot of the mother-father wounds that all of us are still working on, right? Like, how could it be possible, that my reality is this constructed, that I have been lied to, that I am somebody who could be lied to, right? Like that ego blow. And then there comes a point where it's like, it becomes more of a game, right? And every time you learn about one more thing, it's just a new landscape, that open, like a vista that becomes visible. And the process of really crystallizing what is true. I mean, I think, you're somebody who would say, well, there's really probably like two things, are true for sure, right? Like we're on a stationary plane and, this isn't a ball.
Yeah.
And like not a ton beyond that, it's all just enjoyable exploration. And so this was really intended to be that invitation for anyone who is at this point of feeling, attracted to this level of inquiry. And I'm so grateful for your generous time and information and preparation. Amanda, it means a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, I'm glad we bridged this, and we're fearless people, generally speaking, because I was very hesitant to come and talk about it openly because I don't need the backlash. We have to decide what we want to talk about, what we want to focus on. But when I think about health as a practitioner, as someone who's, grown up with this awareness and knowledge of health, natural and so forth, it is important because how are you going to be healthy, and health is mind, body, spirit, and live the lie that we're on a ball? I mean, fully. And I'm very all or nothing in my way, meaning I don't just want part of the truth. I want to know. And I think it's very potent when people, it's actually very relieving, as much as it can be disconcerting. It's very relieving when because now all the tricks, you're really armed with enough now to be able to stop a lot of lies and tricks coming back into you, which is going to help your stress levels, which is going to help the way your mind works, which is going to help your health in general, to understand that your where you live, and that there's a God, or there's something that created this place. And we're not just floating particles that just came from random dust. And came from an amoeba, and then somehow that became a frog, and that somehow became a bird, and that's became an ape, and no, that's impossible, just like the ball, right? Yeah. And when that's inside of you, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but there's a peace. And I want that for people. I crave that for people.
And that's why you said at the beginning, there is a timing, and I would look through the lens of like nervous system healing and autonomic regeneration and expanded capacity, right? Because when you are, living in that random universe, it's a very scary place. You're arrested in, stress physiology, and you really can't even begin to capacitate the possibility that this is a safer place than you're feeling or you have felt that it is, right? So that involves like a huge transformation. But what is on the other side of that is the same thing that's on the other side of germ theory and so many of these, extraordinary paradigm shifts is like, when you stop believing in contagion and infection, I bet you felt a lot safer in your body, right? Like you were no longer scared of other people, no longer scared of random contagion, sort of befalling you. And it's the same exact thing, right? There is some place that you get to, and whether it's like you're no longer worried about like meteors destroying you at any given moment, or, being honestly irradiated by satellites 24/7. I mean, there's so many layers that are baked in that are incredibly paralytically fear-inducing, that just melt away when you stop, believing in this. And so holding that safety within yourself is something you got to be at a point where you're ready to do that, right? Where you're ready to relax the fight or flight that this agenda really is intended to keep you arrested in. So it's like a very personal metaphysical journey.
Absolutely. And integrity. And it helps you to refine your integrity in yourself too. And when you get closer to truth and you practice it, it becomes a new habit. And then every time that you're faced with a new challenge, you apply the same techniques and you get better and better at staying in integrity and finding truth. And your tools, your intuitive tools begin to develop. Other aspects that we've dulled in ourselves begin to arise. Like we're just at the precipice of this information. and we're at the apocalypse, which is the great reveal. We are starting to see. And so this is why this is the timing, I believe, because now everything is being opened up for us to see. And it's our chance and our opportunity to do that, and to do that for our children and all the next generations, for our own well-being, and for a positive future that isn't, based in steaming lies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you so much. And we'll make sure that people know where to explore the many things that you offer, including like an extraordinary apothecary and book and resources. You're so generous with your teachings and information. So I'm very grateful.
Thank you, Kelly.